Friends, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. It all started when my cousin Tom threw a bachelor party for his brother, my cousin James. I was invited, and of course I agreed and said I would be there. My wife Doris didn't like it. Doris had an extremely low opinion of stag parties because of what she saw from her side of the family. Her brother Sam visited one of them, accepted the offer of a hired girl to entertain anyone for an appropriate amount of money, and eventually fell ill with a venereal disease, which he could not adequately explain to his wife. Her cousin Ron abandoned his wife and 2 children and ran away with a hired girl at a bachelor party he attended. Her father got drunk at a bachelor party, crashed his car, and was hospitalized for a week. No, really, Doris wasn't at all happy that I accepted the invitation. I noticed that she went to a bachelorette party a couple of times that men were invited to, and she said it was different. What do you mean? A man will never be able to do as much as a woman does at a men's bachelor party. Explain it to me, please. A man at a bachelorette party can only use it once or maybe twice, so since they can't all be helped, girls tend to behave decently. Do you have any idea how stupid that sounds? It is well known that women can control themselves, but men cannot. Do you have any idea how stupid that sounds? I don't want to fight about this, Frank. I don't want you to go to Jim's bachelor party. Invite him to dinner or something, but I don't want you to be at this party. You mean, Doris, that you don't trust me? After 2 years of marriage and 8 years of marriage, you still don't get to know me better than you do now? Well, I'm going to go to Doris, and that's it. Of course, this was not the case. There were still 9 days left before the party, and Doris used those 9 days to do everything she could to persuade me not to go. It was quite cold in the house because she hardly paid any attention to me. Her main trump card, of course, was control over the little furry place between her legs. We usually made love 3 or 4 times a week, but for 9 days I only heard, "Not today, Frank. I'm not feeling well." There was also a phrase that everyone loved, "Not today. I have a headache." It was clear to me that if I did leave, the lull might continue long after the party turned into a memory, but I could be as stubborn and uncooperative as Doris, and that was final. I was able to strike back, however limited. Every Friday night, I always, without fail, invited Doris to dinner. On Friday, when I returned home from work, Doris was dressed and ready to go out. I went into the bedroom, which I turned into a home office, sat down at my desk, and turned on my computer. When I didn't come down dressed for dinner, Doris started looking for me. She came into the room and asked, "What are you doing? Why aren't you getting ready for dinner?" "I'm too busy. I'm searching the internet for good sites." "What are you?" "I'm looking for good movies." The slamming of the door as she left pretty much told me that she wasn't interested in being a spectator. On Saturday, I got up and left the house before Doris woke up. I had a date with 3 friends every Saturday, and we played golf at 10 minutes past 6, and Doris didn't get up until 8 or so. She had a regular appointment at the beauty salon at 11, and she usually returned home just as I was returning from a golf game in Red Ridge. Doris was going to miss an appointment that morning because I took her car instead of mine. Her car had an automatic transmission, and my truck had a manual transmission, and Doris didn't know how to operate a manual transmission. I know it doesn't sound very convincing, but when you're playing the game, you have to take what you can get. To say that Doris was furious when I got home would be an understatement. I ignored her and got ready to go to Jim's bachelor party. I heard after, "Damn it, Frank. I told you I didn't want you to go to this party," and ignoring her, I left the house, got into my truck, and headed to the party. It was an ordinary boys' party. There were 17 guys there, and I knew and loved most of them. I say most because Mel Timmons was there, and I didn't like him at all. He was always partial to Doris and tried to separate us several times before we got married. 3 tables were set up for playing poker. The game was played for 5 cents, a dime, a quarter, at the dealer's choice, with a limit of 3 raises, so no one had to get hurt. 2 hours after the start of the game, which took place in Jim's apartment, the doorbell rang, and Tom opened the door to find 2 female police officers standing there. One of them said, "Your neighbors complain about the noise. Whose house is this?" Tom pointed at Jim, and the 2 of them walked up to Jim, and before they could blink, one of them snapped the handcuffs on him, and she said, "You're under arrest." The handcuffs were real, not fake. One of the cops started reading Jim his rights. You have the right to remain silent and all that stuff. I could tell by the look on Tom's face that he wasn't expecting this, and after looking at their uniforms, I realized that it wasn't fake. Everyone started to worry about what was going on until the one who was reading Jim his rights said, from that moment on, it was exactly the kind of boys' party Doris had imagined. Two girls invited every guy who wanted to make love to her, and a couple of times both girls made love to three at the same time. I had heard of tightness and knew what it was, but I had never seen it. It was wild, and I'm not going to say I wasn't tempted, but I didn't take advantage of it. I just watched what was happening and allowed myself to get excited, even knowing that the only outlet for me would be my right hand when I got home. I was watching Tom, Jim, and Mark perform the song Missy when Mel came up to me and said, "You're not going to use it?" No, no way. If I had done that and Doris had found out, she would have thrown me out. You know, the marriage vow and all that. Bad luck, kid. These are two select ladies, and they know what they're doing. I've never had a better one. He approached another girl. Her name was Donna, and since she had an unoccupied hole, Chalk quickly filled it. Watching this, I couldn't help but wonder why I didn't just say fuck Doris and join them. I mean, I was a man, and I needed love, and Doris didn't want to give it to me. I was in an apartment with two girls who wanted to. It would not be love, and there would be no emotional involvement in it. It would just be love for love's sake, so why not? A couple of times I caught myself reaching for the zipper or belt buckle, but stopped myself at the last second. Shortly before the party ended, both girls came up to me, and Missy said, "What's the matter, dear? Don't you like any of us?" Just the opposite. I'm dying to make friends with both of you, but unfortunately I have a flaw in my character. A character flaw? Donna asked. What kind of character flaw is it? I have a stupid thought in my head that says I have to be faithful to my wife. Really? Donna said, I didn't think there were any good guys left in the world. I'm going to leave you my phone number in case your wife turns out to be stupid enough to let you leave. It's doubly important to me, honey, Missy said. I wish I had a boyfriend who thinks that way. Tom and Em came over, took their hands and led them away, and as I watched the two adorable asses walk away from me, I thought, do you arrange group sex at parties, and you need a guy like me? Go figure it out. The party started to break up, and soon it was just Tom, Jim, the two girls, and me. I was sober enough, so I stayed to help with the cleaning. Donna and Missy came up to me, and Donna said, "You should at least kiss us, sweetie." And Missy giggled and said, "Of course, it's free." They both kissed me and slipped me a piece of paper with their phone numbers on it. Donna said, "I meant what I said, sweetie. If your wife is stupid enough to let you go, call me." They left, and Tom, who was collecting money for them, said, "I should have been born a beauty." The two of them had just spent 4 hours enjoying love and walked out of here with $2,300 that they would have to split between them. And that wasn't even counting the $400 they got for coming here to dance. That's almost $340 an hour. We cleaned up and I left, but the evening wasn't over for me yet. When I went outside, I saw two girls standing in front of a Ford Focus with the hood up. I went over and asked, "Are there any problems?" "It won't start." I went to my truck, took a flashlight out of the glove compartment, and came back to take a look. "You girls are out of luck today," I said. "The positive terminal of your battery cable is rusted and split in half. All the parts stores are closed at this time of night, so the car won't work until tomorrow." "Damn," Missy said. "And now what?" "Let's call a taxi," Donna said. "At a time like this? We'll be here for a few hours." "No, you won't," I said. "I'll take you where you need to go. I'm not working tomorrow, so I'll go to the parts store, buy everything I need for repairs, and we can go back and fix the car." "Oh my God, you're saving my life, sweetie," Donna said, and we got into my truck. I took them home. It turned out to be Donna's car, but they were roommates, so there was only one place for me to go. When I took them home, I arranged to pick up Donna at 10 in the morning. When I got home, I found the bedroom door locked. I remembered the John Wayne movie in which his wife locked him in the bedroom and he kicked the door down, shouting, "There will be no locked doors in this house." And I thought for a moment about doing the same, but common sense prevailed. Comfortable sofa or not, I was in a bad mood that morning when I got up. Doris was still in bed, so I made myself breakfast and was sitting at the table when Doris came into the room. She looked around and asked, Where's my breakfast? You haven't cooked anything yet, I said, getting up, putting the dirty dishes in the dishwasher and heading for the garage door. Where are you going, Frank? Pick up Donna, and then go to Jim's and fix her car. Who is Donna? One of the girls from yesterday. Are you going to pick up a girl? I suppose you used it last night, right? Are you coming back for more? She chuckled. What's it to you? You don't want to give me anything, so what's it to you? Besides, since I'm a man, and men can actually be stupid in front of women, I allow myself to chatter incessantly. And that gives me an idea, Doris. You like love as much as I do, so you must be in as much pain as I am. Or is it not so? Maybe you're not suffering at all. Maybe you have a boyfriend on the side who makes you happy while you make me unhappy. Is that so, Doris? Are you cuckolding me? I saw the shock on her face when I unloaded, and I was relieved. I have to go. Donna's expecting me at 10. I headed for the door. Frank, get your ass back. We need to talk. We need to settle this now. The only thing we need, Doris, is for you to apologize for acting like a real bitch for the last 2 weeks. I went to the garage and took my cable cutting tool and cable laying device out of the toolbox and then went to get Donna. We went to the parts store and bought the cable we needed and then went to Jim's to fix her car. On the way, she asked me why I looked so sour, and I was just in the right mood to tell her the whole story. So, in addition to the fact that she doesn't like bachelor parties, she thinks you got lost last night? That pretty much sums it up. Do you want me to call her and tell her what really happened? God, no. It would only make it worse. She'd think I put you up to it and that you were lying for me. As it is, she thinks I'm with you now to make more love. All I can say, sweetie, is that if something goes wrong between the two of you, call me. She looked at me for a second or so, and then she said, but you won't do that, will you? I'm just a fool, and who wants to have anything to do with a fool, right? Don't be a fool, Donna. You are a beautiful woman, and you seem attractive. I'm sure we could become real friends, but as long as I'm married, it can't be anything more. This also applies to any disagreements that may arise between me and my wife. I will not break my wedding vows as long as I am still legally married to my wife. If the divorce does happen and you're still around, you'll be one of the first people I'll call. She looked at me intently once more, and then said, I believe you're serious about this. Yes, honey, I'm serious. She leaned over and kissed me. I haven't met many really good guys in my life, sweetie, but you're at the top of the list of the few people I know. We went to Jim's place. I fixed her car and waited for it to start, and then I drove home. When I got home, Doris wasn't there. I went to the garage and replaced the oil in the truck, and when Doris was still not at home, I cooked myself something from the leftovers, ate, and sat down in front of the TV. Doris returned around 7 and didn't say a word as she walked through the house to the kitchen. I could hear her fussing about cooking herself something to eat, and about 20 minutes later she came into the living room and, putting her hands on her hips, said, Do you want to know where I've been? I looked at her and said, No. Maybe I was looking for a boyfriend, since you have a girlfriend. You have to understand what I was thinking at that moment. She acted like a bitch to me for almost 2 weeks and dumped me to try to get me to do what she wanted. I was angry, and I had had enough, so I said, I doubt what you were looking for. Most likely, you were just making love to the guy you've been making love to since you left me. I was looking at the TV again when she screamed, You bastard! How can you think that about me? It's just as easy for me to think that about you as it is for you to think about me. Besides, didn't you just say you were looking for a boyfriend? She turned and left the room, and I went back to watching TV. I decided to go to bed early so that I wouldn't see the locked door again, and I was reading in bed when Doris came into the bedroom. I don't want you here with me, she said. That's too bad, Doris. I slept on the couch last night, so if you don't want to be here with me, you can sleep on the couch. She left the room and slammed the door behind her. I got up and went to work before Doris woke up, and I even liked that I could start my day without swearing at her again. When I got home from work that evening, I pulled into the driveway and saw a bunch of things scattered around the front yard. When I got out of the truck, I saw that it was my clothes. My clothes. In fact, it seemed like all my clothes were scattered on the lawn. What the hell is Doris doing right now? The door was locked, so I put my key in the lock, but it didn't work. I walked around the back of the house and tried to open another door. The same. Doris kicked me out of the house. That's all. It was a straw that broke the camel's spine. I went back to the truck, took the tire iron out from behind the seat, and went up to the porch. Since Doris was going to clean up the mess, I ran the tire iron over the large panoramic window and then entered the house. I grabbed a bunch of garbage bags, went out, collected all my clothes, and put them in the back of the truck. I walked around the house and took everything I wanted. I had a separate savings account that I put 10% of my salary into every month to save money for my vacation. So before I turned off the computer, I went online and transferred everything from our savings and checking accounts to a vacation account that Doris didn't have access to. I used the phone to call and cancel all our credit cards and kept only the American Express issued in my name, which I used only for business trips. I do not know what Doris was thinking, but she should have known that I would not sit idly by. She's not going to kick me out of the house, is she? Let's just see how she would like to live alone, without credit and without money, except for what she earned from her job. I left the house and headed to a motel near work. I was just putting the last of my things in the room when my cell phone rang. I looked at the display and saw that it wasn't Doris, so I answered the call. Hello? Frank? This is Ray Hendrickson. I may be poking my nose into my business, but I thought I should let you know that Doris is currently at the Hitchhikers with Mel Timmons, and they are very friendly. Give me the definition of friendly, Ray. They're sitting side by side in one of the back booths. Mel hugs her and nuzzles her neck. She didn't do anything to push him away. Thanks for the warning, Ray. I appreciate it. So, this fool finally gave Mel what he always wanted. Well, use it. When I came to work the next morning, Stella, our receptionist, had several messages for me. 3 of them were from Doris, and I threw them in the trash without reading them. I told Stella that I didn't want to answer Doris's calls and tell her that I was in a meeting or I wasn't in the office. On the other hand, you can just tell her that I told you that under no circumstances do I want to hear her voice. That I asked you not to put me through this ordeal. Problems on the home front? It won't be long. Around 10 o'clock in the evening, everything calmed down so much that I was able to go to the phone and call a friend who had just gone through a divorce and find out the name of the lawyer he was contacting. I called and made an appointment for the next day. I wasn't quite ready for a divorce yet, but I wanted to know what would happen to me if it came to a fight. There was a bar across the street from the motel, and before I went in my room, I went in there, had a couple of beers, and watched a basketball game that was on TV. I wasn't interested in any of the teams, but I had something to do. The next day, I got the bad news from a lawyer. We lived in a so-called simple marriage, so in any divorce, the property would be divided equally, and since I earned almost twice as much as Doris, I would have to pay her alimony. In addition, since I will be filing an application, I, along with paying for my lawyer's services, will be responsible for all legal costs. In addition, if Doris challenges the divorce, I may have to pay for her lawyer's services, depending on the judge's decision. The only thing that suited me was that we didn't have children. This information cooled me down a bit. Ultimately, it would be cheaper to just stay married but not live together. If Doris didn't like it, she could sue, and at least then I wouldn't be burdened with legal fees and her lawyer's fees. I left the law firm with the firm intention of finding a decent apartment closer to work and moving on with my life. Good morning. Thank you for calling Benton and Partners. How can I contact you? Doris? This is Steph. Hi, Steph. How are you? Are you and Frank okay? Why do you ask? You know I work at the Marston building, right? This morning I saw Frank coming out of Tucker Davidson's office. Why did you call me? Tucker is a divorce lawyer. Damn it. It's not good, is it? It's not good at all. I have 6 calls flashing, so I have to go. Could you meet me for lunch at Maxine's? Say at noon or so. It'll do. After the waitress took their order, Doris asked, Does this Tucker do anything else besides divorce? No. He deals exclusively with family law, and that pretty much means divorces. Do you have a problem with Frank? Sort of. If Frank is talking to Tucker, it has to be something more than sort of. Doris told Steph what was going on. You've got to be kidding, Doris. You've been with Frank for so long, and you don't know him any better than you do now? Frank wouldn't participate in something like this any more than you would participate in a fraternity orgy. But he did it. Mel Timmons called me and told me. What did Mel do? He called me and told me what Frank had done. Why would he do that? He always tried to get close to me, but I was with Frank, and when I married Frank, Mel told me that one day I would regret choosing Frank over him. He called me to gloat. He told me that my so-called loving husband is making love to two girls. And you believed him? Frank confirmed it the next morning. He told me he was going to meet one of the girls and left the house. That doesn't sound like the Frank I knew. Doris told Steph how it went that morning, and Steph said, "And you didn't give him any reason to doubt that what he told you was true? That he was just helping someone solve a car problem? Why would I do that after I heard what Mel said?" So, after the phone call, you kicked Frank out the door. It wasn't just a phone call. Mel said he had photos. After Frank left for the girl, I met Mel at Denny's, and he described the whole evening to me. There were two girls there, and Frank used both of them a couple of times. Mel must have decided that I didn't believe him and said that he had photos, and if we met with him the next night, he would show them to me. Why didn't he show them to you at Danny's? He put his phone on charge, and he didn't have it with him. Frank was at home when I got back from meeting Mel, and I made Frank wonder if I was late home because I was looking for someone to get even with. I shouldn't have done that, because then Frank accused me of cheating on him for weeks. As a result, I slept on the couch that night, and in the morning I was so angry that I threw all of Frank's clothes on the lawn in front of the house, and then called a locksmith to change the locks in the house. How did Frank take it? Not very well. He broke a window to get into the house, took everything he wanted and left. What did he tell you? I couldn't get in touch with him. He's not answering my calls. I called the company to come and fix the window, and when I paid the seller with my credit card, he told me that the payment was declined, and I had to write him a check. I hope you were smart enough to call the bank before you wrote the check. If Frank got mad enough to cancel your credit cards, he could have cleaned out your bank accounts. Damn it. The situation is getting worse and worse. What about Mel's photos? I met him at a bar, and he showed me two photos. In them, Frank watched a couple of guys using girls. The only face that could be seen was Frank's. When I asked him if this was his proof, he said no, but he wanted something before he showed me all the fun. Don't tell me. Let me guess for myself. He told you that you should let him help you get even with Frank, and then he'll show you the photos. Well, yes. I think that's what he wanted. Did you do that? My God, no. I was actually kind enough to let him down and get him to show me the rest of the photos he had. And he did it? No. I wouldn't leave with him and go to his house so he could show them to me. Did it ever occur to you that he didn't show them to you because he didn't have them? If he had them, he would have shown them to you so that you would be even more angry at Frank and want to get even. I hadn't thought of that. Have you thought about what you're doing? The Hitchhikers is where most of Frank's friends gather. Have you ever thought that one of them might see you flirting with Mel, call Frank and tell him? No wonder Frank was dating Tucker. The thing is, Doris, I think you've managed to throw your marriage in the trash. I can't believe Frank would do that. Doris, honey, I'm not a man, so I have no idea what a man would think after going through what you just told me you put Frank through. But if this happened to me, I'd be signing the divorce papers right now. If I were his girlfriend, I would have found some way to get in touch with Frank before the situation got even more out of control. Provided you want to keep it. The intercom buzzed. I pressed the button and said, "Yes?" "I know you asked me not to reply to your wife's messages or connect her with you," Stella said, "but events have occurred that make this impossible." "What events?" "She's standing here in front of me, and she says she won't leave until she talks to you. Tell her that I'm busy and I'm not going to talk to her during office hours." There was a pause, and then Stella said, "She asked me to tell you that she has brought a book and will sit here and read it until you finish for today." I looked at my watch and saw that there were still 3 hours left before the end of work. What I was doing was not an urgent matter, and I could have left early, but the mood I was in did not allow me to give Doris the slightest indulgence. I really needed to distract Stella from business, and sooner or later I would have to talk to Doris, so I asked Stella to tell Doris to enjoy her book. At 4:15, Doris's cousin and best friend Steph called me. "How are things going, Frank?" "I've been better, Steph. What can I do for you?" "I had lunch with Doris today, Frank, and this girl is in a terrible state. She told me what was going on, and although I agree that she did something stupid, I don't think it came to a divorce." "Why are you talking about divorce?" "I saw you leaving Tucker Davidson's office, and divorce is what Tucker does. When she told you about what was going on, did she mention cheating?" "She didn't cheat on you, Frank." Timmons told her that he had incriminating photos of what you were doing at the bachelor party, and he tried to convince her that she should get even with you by sleeping with him. She tricked him into showing her the photos. She swears that she didn't have anything with him, and I believe her. You two need to sit down and talk frankly. Maybe, Steph, but there's more going on than what she could do to Timmons, and I'm not sure talking will help. But you're right. Sooner or later, I'm going to have to sit down and talk to her straight. Thanks for your concern, Steph, but I'm busy and I have to go. Bye, Frank. Good luck. Thanks, Steph. At 5, I saved my job, turned off the computer, and went over to Doris. When I entered the reception room, she looked up from her book, and I noticed a worried expression on her face. She stood up and I said, "I'll meet you at the Hitchhikers. We can sit in the same booth where you kissed Timmons and talk there." And I walked past her. On the way, I stopped at a gas station and refueled. So Doris beat me to the bar. She was sitting in one of the back booths, and I remembered that Ray said he saw Doris and Timmons in one of the back booths, and I wondered if she was in that booth, because she took me literally when I said we could talk in the booth where she was with Mel. I went over and sat down across from Doris, and when Alice came over for our order, I ordered a bud and said, "Alice, the bills are separate." The look on my wife's face when I said that lifted my spirits. When Alice left, I said, "Okay, Doris, you called this meeting yourself. Give me your opinion. Why did you cancel our credit cards and rob our bank accounts? Come on, Doris, you're not stupid. You threw all my stuff out of the house, and then you changed the locks so I couldn't get in. It meant that you didn't want me around anymore. I took the hint, so I left, and while I was about to leave, I wasn't going to support you and pay your bills, so I canceled the cards so you couldn't use them. As for the money in the bank, you kicked me out of the house, so as far as I understand, you're helping to pay for my accommodation where I'll end up living. Your share of the cash that was in the bank can help pay for my move. Besides, you have a house, and it's worth more than what was in the bank. Of course, from now on you can also make payments on it, as well as pay for all utilities. You may be saving on what you earn, but what the hell, that's what you wanted, right? No, Frank, that's not what I wanted. I overreacted to the fact that you went to that girl after the party that I didn't want you to go to from the very beginning. Everything turned out exactly as I expected. What does this have to do with me? Just because it happened and I was there? Does this mean that I have something to do with it? How about going for a drink after work with the girls you work with? I know for a fact that Linda Bliss and Joyce Baker go to the parking lot with the guys they meet at the bar and spend time in the back seats. Just because you're there with them, does that mean you're making love in the back seats too? That's another matter. No, that's not true, Doris. You're saying I'm guilty because I was there when it happened. So that means you're guilty if you were there when Linda and Joyce were doing their thing. I didn't do a damn thing to the two girls who were there, except give them a ride home when their car wouldn't start. The next day I came back and fixed her car. All I got in return was a kiss on the cheek and words of gratitude. I didn't mind because that was all I expected. And before you ask, I did it because they were in trouble and I was there to help. I've done the same for other people. Why didn't you explain this to me? Why would I waste my time, Doris? You haven't listened to a word I've said in the last 2 weeks, so why should I expect you to listen to me explain anything to you? Okay, Frank, I made a fool of myself and I admit that I was wrong to do what I did. She opened her purse, took out an envelope, and slid it across the table to me. What is it? The keys to the new locks so that you can return home. I returned it to her and told her, I don't think so, Doris. The bachelor party and the story with the girls are only part of the problem. There are other things that I don't like. One of them is that I'm fed up with you denying me love whenever you want to make me submit to your will. The other is that I'm not sure I want to live with a woman who I think is cheating on me. I meant what I said on Sunday morning. You like love as much as I do, and you don't seem to have suffered after not giving it to me for 2 weeks, so I have to wonder if you really went without it. I think I know the answer to that question after hearing about you and Mel Timmons. Damn it, Frank. You should have known me better. I was mad at you and tore you apart. I would never cheat on you. That's not what I heard. According to my information, Mel Timmons helped you get even with me for what you think I did at the bachelor party. I didn't do a damn thing with chalk. Well, maybe I really did something to provoke him. He said he had pictures of you making love to girls at a party and asked me if I wanted to look at them, and of course I agreed. Have you seen any pictures of me making love to any girls? All he had were 2 photos of you standing there watching. He said he had more explicit pictures, but I didn't want to give him what he wanted to show them to me for. I kissed him twice and didn't push his hands away when he tried to feel something, but that was it. Do you have any way to prove it, Doris? She thought for a moment and then said, I think so. Your friend Ronnie Thomas and his wife were there. I stopped and greeted them as I was leaving. They can tell you that I left alone and that Mel was still there when I left. How do I know you didn't meet him later? How do I know you didn't leave alone to confuse my friends? You know what I'm talking about. I'll leave first, Mel, so no one sees us leaving together. I'll meet you at your place. How do I know it wasn't like that? Damn it, Frank. What do you want? Do you want me to take a lie detector test? Great. Arrange it, and I'll do it. So tell me, Doris, how does it feel to deny that something happened and they don't believe you? This sucks, Frank. You said a minute ago that I should get to know you better so that I wouldn't believe some of your words. Shouldn't you have known me better, too? All these years that we were together, didn't you trust me any more than before? I'm sorry, Frank, and looking back, I realize I didn't behave very sensibly. I knew all about the disastrous consequences of bachelor parties for my friends, and I just didn't want you to leave. Yes, I should have known you better, but deep down I had the thought that any man, even a good one, would lose his temper when he saw a naked woman ready to pounce on any of them. When you said you were going to see that girl on Sunday morning, it only confirmed all my fears. All I could think about was how Ron left his wife and kids and ran off with a girl he met at a bachelor party. I was crushed, Frank, and there was nothing you could do to help me. When I attacked you, you should have known how I felt. Why didn't you tell me to come with you if I thought you were going to do something wrong? Why didn't you say, go and see for yourself, instead of leaving and thinking about what I was thinking? So it's my fault now, Doris? I'm not buying it. Everything that happened because of your actions. The fact that you pushed me and eventually forced me to pull myself together and fight back doesn't make it my fault. Can't we just put all this in the past, Frank? I love you, and I want you to be with me. Please, Frank, take the key and come home. And, returning the envelope with the keys to me, she looked up and said, Hi, Brenda. I looked over my shoulder and saw that my beloved girl was standing there. She smiled at me and said, Hi, Frank. Doris looked from me to Brenda and then back at me and asked, Do you two know each other? Yes, I said. And I take it you know each other? Brenda works with me. In fact, this is not quite true. I work for her because she is an office manager. I motioned for Brenda to join us, and she sat down next to Doris, across from me. I didn't want to interrupt, but when I came in and saw two of my favorite people sitting together, I just couldn't help but come up and say hello. Is Frank one of your favorite people? How do you know my husband? Brenda looked at me in surprise. Are you with Doris? I nodded in the affirmative. The question is, how do you know my husband? He hung in the air between us, and my mind started working with renewed vigor. Obviously, Doris didn't know that Brenda was working as a dance girl at night, and that told me that Brenda probably didn't want Doris or anyone else in the office to know about it. So how do I answer this question? I really didn't know Brenda and didn't understand the brand well enough to allow myself to lie, which could easily be seen through. So I decided that Brenda would have to answer this question herself. I looked at Brenda with what I hoped was an answer the question expression on her face, and I think she understood it or came to the same conclusion as me and decided that this was the way it should be. Brenda laughed and said, I tried to take Frank away from his wife, but he wouldn't let me do it. I think I'm one of the most beautiful women in this state, and he wouldn't even let me give him my phone number. Did you try to steal my husband? I didn't know he was your husband. He was actually wearing gloves, so I couldn't see the rings, and so I didn't know he was married. It so happened that Marcia and I went in here for a drink, and some dumb idiot who drank too much decided that he was God's gift to women and to me in particular, and kept trying to get me to dance with him. I kept refusing, and eventually he started insulting me. He said a bunch of really unpleasant things, and I ended up getting so angry that I threw a glass in his face. He raised his hand to hit me, but Frank was just passing by, heading for the exit, and he intervened, grabbed the guy, subdued him, and led him out the door to the parking lot. I heard him tell the guy that if he tried to come back, he would hurt him and then throw him in a dumpster. Then he came back and offered to walk Marcia and me to our cars to make sure that this idiot wouldn't bother us when we left. And he was there. A knight in shining armor doing good deeds for a girl in trouble, and besides, he turned out to be a real handsome man. So I threw my arms around his neck, and he just smiled, said he was glad to help, wished me good night, and left. He did let me buy him a drink the next time I saw him here, but no matter how hard I tried, that was all I could do with him. Of course, it was probably a good thing that he turned me down, because Marcia wanted him too, and we would end up fighting over him and probably wouldn't be roommates anymore. Did Marcia want my husband too? I think I'll have to pour water on her head at work. You will get a pass because it would be unwise to quarrel with the boss. A well-thinking girl. Now that I see the two of you together, I understand why I couldn't seduce him, and I'm not so offended that I was rejected. While we were talking, the band was getting ready to perform, and when their first number started playing, Brenda asked, "Do you mind if I dance with my hero?" I was sure Doris was against it, but apparently she didn't want to say no to her boss. So I wasn't surprised when she said she wouldn't mind. When I hugged Brenda to start the waltz, I said, "Honey, is it about the name Donna, or are you really Brenda?" "I'm Brenda. I don't use my real name when I work at parties." "I suppose that means Missy is actually Marcia?" "That's right." "Jesus, Frank, I had no idea you were Doris's husband." "Why would you know that? You've never seen us together." "No matter how much she told me about you, I should have recognized you only from her description." "Has the relationship between you improved since the last time we spoke?" "It's actually worse." And I told her what had happened since I last saw her, and she was shocked. "This is not the Doris I know. Trust me, Frank, she would never cheat on you. When she talks about you at work, it pisses off all the other girls." "Why the hell should other women be angry?" "Because, according to Doris, you can't do anything wrong. According to her, you can walk on water." "Why did she even talk about me?" "It's not usually about you." During one of our breaks, a girl starts complaining about what her husband and boyfriend did, and other girls get in and talk about their men. Then Doris inserts her 2 cents. "This girl thinks that you, Frank, have hung the moon and the stars. She would never cheat on you." "Get mad and pull your chain?" "Maybe, but change it? Not in this life." "I do not know, Brenda." Her tone and the way she said it didn't sound like she was trying to break me off the chain at all. "I don't often meet with the team after work because I usually have an appointment, if you know what I mean, but when I do meet with them, all of us girls get pestered, and Doris has never danced more than once with any of the guys who she was invited. Some of the girls even went out to the parking lot, and Doris gave them unhappy looks when they did. She didn't even talk to Joyce and Linda because Linda and Joyce were cheating on their husbands. There's no way that woman would cheat, Frank. Absolutely no way. Whatever problems you have, Doris cheating on you is not one of them." The music stopped, and as we walked back to the booth, Brenda said, "I'm going to piss off your wife when we get back to the booth. And when I do, I want you to think about this. Doris is my friend, but if you can't make peace with her, I was completely serious when I asked you to call me." We went to the booth and she kissed me on the lips, and then she took her purse and said she had to go, and then she told Doris, "Take care of my hero. See you at work." I sat down and Doris asked, "Did you turn her down?" She was joking when she said she was one of the most beautiful women in this state. But the fact is, she is, and you turned her down? Of course I did. I am a married man, and I have made several promises in church in front of hundreds of people, and I keep my promises even if some others don't. Damn it, Frank. I told you I'd take a lie detector test if I had to. I didn't cheat on you. That's my opinion on this, Doris. You made this mess yourself, so if everything works out, you're the one to clean it up. I got up to leave, and she asked, "What do you mean, Frank? Where are you going?" "We need to sort this out, Frank. You need to go home. Think a little, Doris. Maybe you'll understand." I left the bar and went to my room. As I was putting the contents of my pockets on the dresser, I noticed that I had taken the envelope with the keys that Doris was trying to give me. Was it a sign? The next 2 days were busy for me. I had to fly to Denver for a number of meetings, and they were very productive. Based on their results, I could get a nice bonus. I was in a good mood when I flew home and decided to treat myself to a festive dinner at my favorite steakhouse. I had been there about 10 minutes when Brenda, Marcia, and 2 men came in. They sat down at the other end of the room from me. Brenda looked around the room, saw me, smiled broadly, turned around and said something to Marcia. Marcia looked back, waved at me and smiled. I thought that these two men must be the luckiest guys in the world to have such a couple, and I wondered why I was internally set up like this. I could beat them both and get the girls. This thought reminded me that it's been almost a month since I last had love, and it looks like it's going to be a lot longer for me. I was just finishing dessert when Brenda got up and came over to my table. Come on, Frank, join us. I would not like to interfere with your dates. This isn't a date, Frank. It's more of a business meeting. They're having a bachelor party, and we're having dinner with them, talking over the details. I introduced you as a satisfied customer, and they asked me to invite you to their place. I think they want to ask you if we are worth what we have offered them, in terms of price. I haven't tried Brenda's charms, so how would I know? You've seen it all, Frank. Have you seen the disappointment on anyone's face? No, not a bit. You don't have to tell them what you didn't use. Just say that everyone here had a great time. I think I could do it. I joined the group, answered the questions I was asked, and apparently the men were satisfied. One of them took the check, and they both got up to leave. The one called Don said, shaking hands with Brenda and Marcia, "See you Friday at 7, and then both men left. Okay, Frank, Marcia said. Now you're alone with two hot beauties who want your body, and what are you going to do? Go back to my room and cry. Why would you do that? Look, ladies, if I were single, I'd kill to get any of you. But I'm married, and this is something I take seriously. Cheating on my wife is something I won't do." I noticed Marcia give Brenda a look that I couldn't decipher, and Brenda said, "At least you can sit with us and have a drink or two." Yes, I can do it. I had 2 glasses with them, and then I decided that was enough for today. I spent some time thinking about the situation with Doris, and by the end of the next day, I decided to stop by home and talk to Doris a little more. I was pretty sure she was telling the truth about Timmons, but we still needed to talk about her bad habit of cutting me off whenever she didn't get her way. I used my new key to get in, and as I walked through the front door, I heard Doris talking in the kitchen. I didn't realize that anyone was here, and I was about to turn around and leave when I realized that she was talking on speakerphone, which she sometimes did when she was working in the kitchen. The voice on the other end of the line sounded like Brenda's, so I stopped and listened. If Marcia and I couldn't seduce him, I doubt the girls at that boys' party intrigued him. I think it's time to come clean, girlfriend. The story I told you last night about how I met Frank was pure nonsense. The truth is, Marcia and I were dancing girls at that party, and the story Frank told you was 100% true. Our car wouldn't start, so he gave us a ride home, and the next morning he came back and fixed the car. Marcia and I literally threw our arms around his neck, and all he let me do was kiss him on the cheek. He was in a depressed mood, and I asked him why. Apparently, he wanted to relax, and he told me about how things were going between him and his wife. I told him that if he couldn't get along with his wife, he should call me. Of course, I didn't know then that you were his wife. You have a great boyfriend, and you have to do everything you can to keep him. My problem is that I've backed myself into a corner, and now I'm at a dead end. How so? I told him that I would take a lie detector test to prove that I wasn't lying when I told him that I hadn't cheated on him with Mel. I expected him to say that it wasn't necessary. I mean, why would I offer if I have something to hide, right? The fact is that he told me that since I was the one who started the mess, I should sort it out. I understood it so that I should prepare everything and take the test. So do it. I can't. It would show that I wasn't lying when I said that Mel and I didn't have anything, but you can bet all the money you have that one of the questions would be, have you ever cheated on your husband? And we both know that I couldn't answer this question. Why not? Have you forgotten about the 3 parties I've worked with you at in my time? Oh, wow. Yes, I forgot about them, but that was more than 6 years ago. But I was married when I did it, and the question would be, have you ever cheated on your husband? I've backed myself into a corner. Now Frank is waiting for me to take the test, but I'm hesitant. I'm going to lose anyway. If I pass it, I won't be able to pass it, and if I don't pass it, Frank will decide that I didn't do it because I knew I couldn't pass it. I'm going to screw up anyway. I still didn't ask then why you stopped? You were definitely a success with men, and you seemed to like it. I did more of what I liked. I needed it. I liked it so much that I wanted to do more, but I knew that if I kept doing this, sooner or later Frank would find out about it. It didn't matter how much I loved it and wanted it. It would have cost me Frank, and I couldn't let that happen. He means a lot to me. If you think that, why did you go to parties at all? Frank had been away from the project for more than 3 months and wasn't going to come home for another 2 or 3 months, and I was damn horny. I was climbing walls and I heard you and Marcia talking about how much fun you had at the parties you threw, and it only made it worse. It sounded so exciting coming from you that I volunteered to help. It was amazing, Brenda, and I still think about it and wish I could do it. But it was a choice between that and Frank always wins when I have to make a choice. Oh my God, Brenda. What am I going to do? I can't lose Frank. I just can't. You're not going to like hearing this, friend, but you're right. You've backed yourself into a corner, and the only hope I see for you is a confession. I haven't known Frank for a long time and obviously don't know him very well, but he gives me the impression of a man who values honesty. From the way he behaved when I threw my arms around him, I got the impression that he loves you madly. If I were you, I'd sit next to him and tell him everything. You're in a place where you have nothing to lose if you try. If I can help you in any way, let me know. I have to go. I'll see you at work tomorrow. I quietly left the house and returned to my motel room. Did my Doris have group sex at stag parties? I would never have believed it. Not for the world. This, of course, changed everything. Doris apparently didn't cheat on me with Timmons, but she cheated on me, and in a big way. When I returned with my new key, I intended to try to restore the relationship between us, but an overheard conversation changed everything. Suddenly I realized that I didn't know what to do. To hell with it all. I wasn't going to sit in my room and go crazy thinking about it. I grabbed the keys and drove to the Hitchhikers. After drinking 2 beers and playing 3 games of billiards, I saw Mel Timmons come in with a pretty red-haired girl and decided that I would try to spoil their evening. I waited until he and his lady were seated and the first drink was brought to them, and then I went to their table. How are you, Liquid Error? I understand you told my wife that you have some photos of me doing bad things at Jim's bachelor party. She said that you promised her that if she used you, you would show her the photos. How about showing them to me? I won't use you to look at them, but in the mood I'm in right now, I'm ready to hit you. Fuck off, Frank. I'm not afraid of you. That's good. If you were afraid of me, you would avoid me, and I would not be able to reach you. Whether I win or lose, Mel, it doesn't matter, as long as I can hurt you. Let's talk about this another time, Frank. I have someone right now. I turned to look at the woman and said, let me tell you a little story. This bastard has been trying to get into my wife's panties for years. We went to my cousin Jim's bachelor party last week, and when it was over, the fart called my wife and said he had pictures of me cheating on her with 2 girls who were at the party. He told her that if she slept with him to get even with me, he would show her the photos. As a result, we broke up. Is this the kind of guy you'd like to spend time with? She looked at Timmons, then back at me and said, no, but I won't be able to go home if I leave him. I'll be more than happy to give you a ride, but if you don't want to take any chances with me, I'll pay for your taxi fare. The problem is that I just arrived and was looking forward to a night out. Do you play billiards? Yes. Then come and join us at the pool tables. You can play billiards with us, and when the band arrives, I think Dave, Jim, and I can keep you on the dance floor until you want to leave. Without saying a word to Mel, she stood up and said, come on. I looked at the chalk and said, it's not over between us yet, Mel. Sooner or later, we'll be able to get together in a place where we won't have to worry about the police being called, and something else. Every time I see you here with a girl, I'm going to do the same thing I just did. I turned around and followed the red-haired girl to the pool tables. Her name was Hannah, and she was a lot of fun. She played well at the table too. We played billiards until the band started playing, and I invited her to dance. While we were dancing, she asked me how much of what I said about Mel was true, and I told her, that's it. Have you and your wife reconciled yet? Not yet, and I'm not sure that we will succeed. So flirting with me is revenge for Mel, and you're hoping you'll be lucky enough to get back at your wife? Not at all. Are you ruining your relationship with Mel? Yes, indeed, but no matter what my wife has done, I am not cheating on her. I meant what I said. I'll give you a ride home unconditionally, or if you want, I'll take you in a taxi. I will say that if I were divorced, or at least living separately and about to get divorced, I would hunt you like a duck after a June bug. I think I believe you, and that's strange, because I didn't really trust married men too much. The melody ended, and for the next 2 hours, Dave, Jim, and I kept Hannah on the dance floor. I noticed that Mel was standing on the sidelines and taking pictures on his mobile phone. I guessed he was going to call Doris now. Around 11, Hannah said she had to go, as she had to go to work the next day. Should I call you a taxi? No, I'll take advantage of your offer of a ride. We started talking when I was driving her home, and I found out that she works as a legal secretary and met Mel when he came to consult one of her firm's lawyers. He seemed like a pretty nice guy to me. I guess I'm not very good at recognizing the bad ones. I don't know. I'm biased about it because of what he tried to do to my wife. But honestly, there aren't many guys who wouldn't try if they thought they'd be lucky. Is she that hot? Don't forget that I have prejudices. When I brought her home, she bent down, kissed me on the cheek, and handed me a piece of paper with her phone number. I may not be very good at bad things, but when it comes to finding the good ones, I act decisively. If something doesn't work out, call me. I left in a great mood. This feeling didn't leave me until I got to my room. My cell phone rang as I was opening the door. The display showed that it was Doris. I took it and said, "Yes? I need to talk to you, Frank. Can you come to my place tomorrow after work?" "No, it won't work tomorrow." "How about the day after tomorrow?" "Yes, I can do it." "At 7? I'll cook dinner." "Doris, there's no dinner, but I'll be at your place at 7. I could have made an appointment for the next day, but it seemed to me that I knew what Doris would say, and I had something I wanted to do before talking to Doris. I rummaged in my wallet and found the piece of paper I was looking for. I stared at him for a few seconds, asking myself if I really wanted to do this, and decided that I did. Although it was too late to call, I dialed the number. When she answered, I said, "Brenda, I need a huge favor." She was waiting in a booth at the back of the room. When I sat down, she said, "Okay, Frank, you've got my full attention. You said that I might be able to help you mend your relationship with Doris. I'm all ears, honey. What can I do? You can tell me everything you know about Doris. Skip all the good stuff. I only want to hear the bad things. This is the bad thing that I have to put up with. I don't understand such things. Of course you love Doris, and lying won't help. I know exactly what you know about the 3 gangbangs she had at bachelor parties when I was in Alaska for 5 months." Her face turned white. "Do you know about this?" "I really do, but what I want to know is what I don't know. What other things are there that I don't have the slightest idea about? If I'm going to get back together with Doris, I'm going to have to declare an amnesty, but I want to know exactly what I'm forgiving. There won't be a second chance. If she confesses, as you suggested, I want to hear everything, not just part of it. If she confesses, and later I find out that there was something else she didn't admit, it's over between us. I walk away and don't look back. And if there's anything else, I'll find out sooner or later, just like I found out about bachelor parties. How do you know that I offered to confess to her? A trade secret. The point is, if she confesses, I have to hear it all. If I forgive her for what she said to me and find out later that there was something else, it's over. So tell me about the bachelor parties and everything else you know. What's there to tell? You saw the one we met on, and they're all pretty much the same. The only thing that changes is the faces. How did she get involved in this? All the girls at work know what Marcia and I are doing. We never wanted them to know, but Sandy's husband attended one of the parties and took some pictures on his cell phone. Sandy found the photos and recognized us. She showed the photos to the girls in the office, and our secret was revealed. The reaction was completely unexpected. Instead of treating us like fools, all the girls wanted to know how it was. How do we get started? Why we did it, and the like. A couple of them even said they would like to try it. So Marcia and I arranged it. Both did it once, and both said that once was enough. Doris was one of those who wanted to know everything about it. She was always asking about what we were doing, how we were doing it, and I could tell that she was interested in trying, but she couldn't muster up the courage. One day, during lunch break, Doris sat down with me and asked me why I was so depressed that day, and I told her. Marcia and I were going to have a party that night, and Marcia got sick. I had to work with 12 or 14 guys alone, and I wasn't eager to do it. Doris told me that she would replace Marcia. I asked her if she knew what she was getting into, and she replied that she had no idea, but that it was something she had wanted to try since she first heard about it. I asked her why she was willing to risk her marriage, and she told me that you had been away for 3 months and wouldn't be back for at least 2 more. That she was horny enough to sleep with 100 men. You'll never know, so she didn't risk anything. She went with me that night, and she liked it. She liked it so much that she did it 2 more times, and then said she couldn't do it anymore, and as far as I know, she didn't do it. I find it hard to believe that she could turn from a faithful wife into a cheater overnight. In my opinion, there should have been some kind of transition period. A couple of romances in the parking lot, or maybe a brief fling. I just can't imagine a faithful wife being on Tuesday and having a threesome on Wednesday. I don't know what to tell you, Frank. I didn't go every night when the girls went, so I don't know what happened when I wasn't there, but I never saw her do anything on the nights I was there, except dance with the guys who invited her, and that's all I did. I don't know. I didn't really expect to learn anything from Brenda. If she had known anything, I doubted she would have told me, because she was Doris's friend and barely knew me. What I really expected was that she would tell Doris about our meeting and suggest that Doris not hide anything if she was really going to follow Brenda's advice and confess. I wanted to try to establish a relationship with Doris. One thing was clear from the overheard phone conversation. Doris loved me and didn't want to lose me. Yes, she cheated on me, but that was 6 years ago, and she quit as soon as she realized that what she was doing could somehow come back to me and cost her me and her marriage. After I returned from Fairbanks, the situation gradually changed. Then she told me that after hearing some of the girls she worked with talk about love and how great it was, she wanted to try it at least once. Then it all became an integral part of our lovemaking. So I was already in the mood to forgive when I came home to meet Doris, but I think it was actually more see if you can forgive than anything else. There was one more question that had to be resolved if we were to get Doris's confession, if, of course, that was what our meeting was about. I rang the doorbell and waited. I called a second time and waited a little longer. I was about to call the third time, but then I said, "Fuck it." He turned and walked back to his truck. I heard the door open behind me and Doris shouted, "Where are you going, Frank?" When you didn't open the door, I decided that you had changed your mind about talking, and I'm leaving. I didn't open the door because this is your house. All you had to do was open the door and come in. This is not my house, Doris. Have you already forgotten that you threw all my things on the lawn and locked me outside? Let's not fight, Frank. Please, just come in. Once inside, she asked where I wanted to sit, in the living room or in the kitchen, and I chose the kitchen. I sat down at the table, and Doris went to the refrigerator and took out 2 beers. She opened them and put one in front of me. I took a sip of the bottle, put it on the table and said, "Okay, Doris, you called this meeting, so get started." She stared at her beer bottle for a few seconds, and then she looked at me and said, "I need you to believe me when I tell you that I love you. I am sincere. I really love you, and losing you will kill me. I've pretty much come to terms with losing you, and I have no one to blame but myself. I lied to you last time when I told you that I would take a lie detector test to prove to you that I didn't have love with Mel Timmons. I would have passed this test, Frank. I would have passed the exam if the only question was, have you ever made love to Mel Timmons? But the next day, when I was looking for someone who could give me a test, it dawned on me that there would be more questions than just this one, and that one of them would probably sound like this. Have you ever cheated on your husband? I couldn't get past that question, Frank. I cheated on you, but that was a long time ago. I've put it in the past, and to tell you the truth, it didn't hurt our marriage at all. If anything, it helped make it better, because it showed me how much I could lose if you ever found out. I know it probably sounds stupid, but cheating on you has actually made me a better wife for you. It sounds silly even to me when I say it, but it's true. I've really become a better wife, or at least that's what I think." She looked at me as if she expected me to say something, but I just sat there drinking beer and waiting for her to resume the conversation. When she realized that I wasn't going to say anything, she said, "It happened 6 years ago, when you were in Alaska on that temporary business trip. I was so used to the fact that we made love 4 or 5 times a week that life without love was killing me, and after about 2 months I started thinking about an affair. I've been thinking about it long and hard. I decided to do it because you were completely out of it. You went to Alaska and you'll never know. I dated someone a couple of times, but when it came time to fish or take off the bait, I gave it up. I know myself pretty well, Frank, and I knew that if I started a relationship, I'd be emotionally involved, and I didn't want that. I wasn't looking for a replacement for you. I just wanted to make love. I really snuggled up to him, and a couple of times it got me a little carried away. I was in a bad mood. I wanted this. I needed it. I longed for it, but I was able to force myself to take the last step and do it. I couldn't trust myself not to get emotional. Then there was a chance to make love without any possibility of emotional involvement. This would not only deprive me of the possibility of emotional involvement, but also allow me to realize a fantasy that I had for a while. She looked at me expectantly, probably expecting me to say something about fantasies, but I just sat there and she continued. You already know Brenda, and although you would never suspect her of it, she works in the evenings and organizes bachelor parties. One of the girls found out about it, and we all stared at her, asking about it. The more I listened to her talk about it, the more I wondered what it would be like. I started fantasizing about it. Her words sounded so damn exciting, but honestly, they were just fantasies. Becky and Karen wanted to try it and persuaded Brenda to arrange it for them. They both said it was mind-blowing and that they loved doing it, but once was enough for them. Even if I was so excited, I doubt I would ever have had the courage to ask Brenda to arrange anything for me, but one day she was in a bad mood and I asked her why, and she told me that Marcia, another girl I work with, was working at parties, got sick or something, and couldn't go to one of the planned parties. Brenda was upset because she had to deal with at least 12 guys on her own, and she didn't really want that. To this day, I have no idea what prompted me to do it, but I volunteered to replace Marcia at the party. It was exactly as Becky and Karen had said. It was mind-blowing and I loved it. I liked it so much that I repeated it 2 more times, and I wanted to do even more, but I suddenly realized that I couldn't hide things like that. If I had continued to do this, you would have found out eventually, and I knew what you would do when it happened. I couldn't take the risk. I couldn't lose you, Frank. I just couldn't. You were my whole world. I've never loved anyone or anything as much as you. That's why I left the parties, even though I liked to throw them. What I saw at those parties was also the reason why I was against your going. I saw how men reacted in such an environment. It's been years since then, but I still think about the 3 I spent and wish I had both. Both? I can throw parties and still be with you. But now it's been 6 years, and these damn parties have finally cost me you, and I have only myself to blame. If I hadn't pulled that crap with Mel and then taken that stupid step of trying to make you think I came out to get even with you, I wouldn't have ended up in a situation where I would have had to take a lie detector test, a test that I could hardly pass. I'm sorry, Frank. I'm so sorry for what I did to us. I looked at her for a long time and intently, and then I said, take the test, Doris. I got up and left the house. I believed her, but despite that, I felt the need to make her suffer. Letting her sit at home alone, thinking she'd lost me, would be at least a small payback. Someone could have said, okay, she owes me, so I'll just call Brenda and Marcia and even the score, but I just wasn't cut out for it. Damn this disgusting luck. The next day, at 4 o'clock, Stella called me on the intercom. Are you still dodging your wife's calls? No. Come on. Put her through. The phone rang and I picked it up. Yes? This is Doris, Frank. I found a person who will do the test for me. He wants to talk to you so that you can tell him everything you want to know so that he can ask the right questions. His name is Josh Burnham, and his number is 713-555-1863. If you call him by noon tomorrow, he can schedule the test for 10 a.m. on Thursday, and the results will be ready by mid-afternoon. All right, Doris. I'll call him as soon as you hang up. I love you, Frank. I really do. Of course you do, Doris. Of course, I said, switching off. I called Barnum, explained the situation, outlined my concerns and what I needed to know, and when I finished talking to him, I called my cousin Lou, who was a policeman, and asked him to find out everything he could about Barnum. He called me back at 6 and told me that the department uses Barnum a lot, and that he has a pretty good reputation. I went to my room, feeling that I was going to take an accurate test. If Doris passes it, I'll meet her again. And if she hadn't done it, well, I've already moved. The next 2 days flew by, and at noon on Thursday, Doris called me and told me that she had passed the test and signed a permit so that Barnum could tell me the results. She had to sign the permit because she was paying for the test, not me. I didn't expect to hear from him until Friday, as Doris had told me that the results would not be known until the middle of the day, so I was surprised when Barnum called me at 2:15. The results were convincing. Except for the cases she told you about, she confirmed her truthfulness when it came to any other cases of infidelity. I hope this will help you calm down. That's right. Thanks for the call. No sooner had I left the office than my cell phone rang. It was Doris. Do you have the results? Yes. Will you come home? I'll come by tomorrow and we'll talk. Tomorrow? Why can't you come tonight? I still need to think about something. Tomorrow at 7. Is there any way I can get you to come tonight? No way. I'll see you tomorrow. And I hung up. I spent the night in my room thinking about what I was going to say to Doris. She was still in danger. True, she passed a lie detector test, but I had another problem with her that needed to be solved before I returned to her. The next day at 7 o'clock, I was climbing the stairs and had not managed to get to the top step when Doris opened the door. The kitchen? What is it? She asked, and I nodded in the affirmative, and we headed there. She took 2 beers out of the fridge, and we sat down at a table. I took a sip of Bud beer and then said, "You passed a lie detector test, but the fact remains that you cheated on me while I was in Alaska. I have listened to your arguments, but I must say that these arguments did not impress me. I do not know what pisses me off the most, that you cheated on me or the way you cheated on me. I spent a lot of time thinking about it and decided that I could handle it, since you never did it again. In the last 6 years for the most part, Doris, have been good years, and until recently I had no reason to doubt your love for me. I admit that I have benefited somewhat from your infidelities. Did you catch that for the most part, Doris? There were moments in those years that were disgusting, and now I have to decide if I want to be in a position again where everything that was disgusting can happen again. We can go back to my trip to Alaska. I will remain faithful to you, but you will not. I was as hurt by the lack of love as you are, but I suffered and kept my vows. The connection between then and now, Doris, is that I suffer when I lack love. I'm becoming a man and I can handle it. There have been several occasions over the past few years, and the last time because of this Jim's bachelor party nonsense, when you used love as a weapon against me. Whenever you did that, I suffered silently as every atom of my body screamed, "You don't have to put up with this, you fool. Go find a woman and sleep with her." But I've never done that because I believe in the vows I've made. I'm sick of you using love to punish me or force me to do what you want. I accept that your body belongs to you, and you decide what to do with it. I know there will be times when I want to make love, and you don't want to. I understand that there will be times when you will feel bad, or you will have a headache, and you will not want to make love. So that's where we are right now. You know my position, and you need to think about how to proceed. I'll never do that again, Frank. I swear to God, I will never do that again. No, Doris, that won't do. I don't want you to say that right after I hit you with it. I want you to take some time and really think about it. Make sure you can make a commitment and stick to it, because if we get back together and you're going to bullshit me again, I'll leave and they won't talk anymore. So think about it carefully, Doris. I'll call you in a couple of days and we'll talk again. I don't need time to think about it. Frank, maybe you don't think you need to, but I think you understand, and I'm the one who's going to have to make the decision about whether to come back to you or not. I pay for my motel room every week, and I paid by Sunday. I'll call you sometime on Sunday. And I got up and left. I was acting like a jerk, and I knew it. I didn't need to keep her until Sunday, but I needed to have the pleasure of seeing her suffer a little, considering all the bad things she put me through. I left the house and went to the Hitchhikers. I drank beer and played billiards until I felt it was time to finish. On Saturday, I was running some errands, went to the laundromat and washed my dirty clothes. That evening I was back at the Hitchhikers. I was drinking beer and playing billiards when a voice behind me said, "Why are you playing this stupid game here when you could be dancing with me?" I turned around and saw Hannah standing there. "That's a good question," I said, handing my pool cue to Sam and saying, "You won, Sam," and then he led Hannah to the dance floor. "I was surprised when you didn't call after you walked me home last night." "Why?" "I've told you about my situation." "Yes, but I thought it was just a phrase that you throw at girls to make them lose their guard." "I'm sorry, but it was true. I've been watching you since you came here, and I haven't seen a single woman. Still haven't figured it out? We are nearing completion. Maybe tomorrow." "Okay, then. You're mine until tomorrow." "Until tomorrow?" "At least until this place closes, or one of us decides to leave." The song ended, and I escorted her back to the table and joined her. We danced a couple more dances and just sat down after the waltz, as she said, "Do you know those 2 women over there? They haven't taken their eyes off us since they came here." I looked in the direction she was looking and saw Brenda, and Marcia sitting at a table. When I looked, they both waved at me, and I waved back. There are only 3 of them with you. Now that I've seen them, you'll have to share me with them. Why? Because they work with my wife, and if we don't join them, they'll think I'm dating you, and I wouldn't want them to tell Doris about it. I got up, walked over to Brenda and Marcia, and asked if they would like to join Hannah and me at our table. Will it interfere with your date? Marcia asked. It shouldn't bother me. It's just that a girl I know invited me to dance. Are you alone here? Brenda asked. I nodded in the affirmative and then said, I went in to play billiards and have a beer, and Hannah decided she wanted to save me. I take it you haven't dealt with Doris yet? Brenda asked. We talked, and maybe we have some progress. I'll find out in a day or 2. Brenda raised her eyebrows in surprise, and I said, she followed your advice. Now I know all about it, and yes, I can handle it, but we still have a problem that needs to be solved. What advice? Marcia asked Brenda. I'll tell you later, Brenda said. So how about this? Will you join us? Brenda looked at Marcia, who shrugged. Brenda said, I think we're going to have to do this, if only to keep you away from girly paws and protect Doris's interests. Bullshit, Marcia said. I'm doing this to make sure she doesn't have an advantage if Frank doesn't sort things out with Doris. As far as I understand, Frank is our main prize. The 3 of us approached Hannah, and I introduced them to each other. I spent the rest of the evening dancing with the 3 of them. When I danced with Brenda, she naturally wanted to know what was going to happen between Doris and me. There is a chance that Doris and I will be together again when you see her at work on Monday. It's not 100% sure, but it's close to it. I could be wrong. I gave her an ultimatum, and if she accepts it, we'll be together again. If she doesn't do it, then neither will we. You know a few women would be upset if you and Doris got back together, right? It seems unlikely. Oh, but it's true. Marcia likes Doris, but she hopes that the 2 of you won't get back together so that she has a chance to get to know you. The young lady you just introduced us to is obviously in love with you, and of course there is me. Doris is a good friend, and I would never try to steal you from her, but if you 2 broke up, I wouldn't hesitate to rush after you. Well, just between us. If Doris and I really break up, and Marcia Hannah, and you are still available, you will be the winner. She smiled, kissed me, and we returned to the table when the song ended. Shortly after that, I announced that I was done for the day and returned to the motel. The next morning I slept late, and when I got up, I went to a cafe for breakfast. Back in the hotel room, I thought about packing my things, but then decided not to take anything for granted. At noon, I called Doris. Hello? It's me. When are you coming home? What have you decided? Damn it, Frank. You know perfectly well what I've decided. It will never happen again. I swear it. Please come home. Wait for me around 5. I need to pack something. I'll cook dinner. While I was packing, I wondered if she could do it. Women are programmed to use love to get what they want, but I meant what I said. I think only time will tell. End.